Hard to sleep in late on day 2, Yasuni National Park, the most biodiverse place on the planet. Yesterday we walked the Jaguar Trail and saw tons of monkeys. Today's plan is to see parrots and macaws at the famous Salt Lick. I really want to get more nature journaling in today no matter what. However, I'm not waiting for everyone else to wake up. I will nature journal the oropindolas, caciques, and other birds right outside the lodge before breakfast. My main challenges will be the fast pace of the muggles, the biting bugs, the tropical heat and humidity, general overwhelm, and challenging subjects to capture on the page. Speaking of capturing challenging subjects on the page, how are you supposed to capture the crazy sound that an oropindola makes? After trying to capture some of the bird sounds on my page and drawing some of the oropindola nest building stages, I decided to draw the tree that the nests were hanging on instead of my usual landscapeito. This way I could connect all of my little bird drawings with the location and the context, and I thought that would be the most useful. I had done a quick sketch of the tree and the hanging nests the day before, but this was a good chance to go a little bit deeper and continue to observe the birds while drawing this tree. This nature journal session was a good start to the day. Breakfast was some weird sausages and fruit, and then we were back in the canoe.
Okay, so as usual, there's a ton of things that I would be totally down to stop and nature journal, and I probably wouldn't even get past the first 50 yards of the trail. But since I'm with a group, there's sort of just the regular group tour flow where we got to get to a specific location and see whatever animals are there. So gotta be adaptable. It's the second day in one of the most biodiverse, if not the most biodiverse places on the planet. Check out this palm right here. And just trying to nature journal. Got up early, had an opportunity to do a bunch of nature journaling this morning. So if you're with a group, don't worry, you can still nature journal. Just be a little bit more adaptable and take advantage of those opportunities to get a longer nature journaling session in, and then adapt your techniques for the rest of the time to be quicker. You can do birding, like use a birding app, for example, is one option as well.
So it turns out we were like an hour early for the birds, and everyone was sitting there waiting like a movie theater watching the advertisements. I decided to make a landscapeito painting of the Salt Lick, even though there were no birds or other animals feeding there yet. And while everyone else impatiently ate their snacks from the boxed lunch and checked their phones, I started feeding the sweat bees and working on the watercolor part of putting together this Salt Lick scene.
Alright, so we're here at one of these really famous spots for seeing birds, and we've been waiting for about an hour, but the birds haven't come down yet. And the funny thing is, I've seen so many photos of this spot, but never seen photos of the area. Check it out. So there's like a full-on house practically built here, and you can see what's in the photos. It's just that bit there. And I guess when I've seen those photos, I've always imagined that it's like out in the middle of nowhere. So we've been hearing a lot of parrots and macaws, but they haven't come down yet. Luckily, I started my nature journal page, and because we're sedentary, I got a lot of nature journaling in, including this little drawing. This little drawing of the salt lake, and a little bit of notes, and also saw a really cool hummingbird. So this is actually one of those moments where you might be in a spot even longer than what you need, and you have to just take advantage and try to nature journal as much as possible. There's plants, there's bugs. Even if the birds aren't coming down yet, you can nature journal the bird sounds. Also, I don't really understand. I wonder why there are so many sweat bees on me, getting my salts when there's like a whole salt lick right over there. What's the difference between the salt?
So while the tension keeps building up more and more, I decided to walk around a little bit, and I noticed this poster. On this poster, it explains that the parrots are actually coming for clay that supposedly neutralizes the toxins of the seeds they are eating, because they break up and consume the seeds, and the plants don't want the birds to digest the seeds, so there's lots of toxins and they have to come eat this clay. So I guess the whole salt thing wasn't correct in the first place, or maybe this is also an oversimplification. Either way, I had to add some of this information to my notes because I asked so many questions based on the salt hypothesis that I wanted to include this information about the clay. At this point, I'm starting to wonder if it's going to be worth it to see these birds anyways. We've been waiting so long. Maybe this is one of those places that's just blown out of proportion. Expectations were so high since everybody had been waiting for so long, and it actually was really cool when the parakeets finally did come down and start eating the clay. They were only there for a few minutes, but I nature journaled frantically the 2 species that were there, and even more impressive for me was when they all took off together, there was a really cool thundering sound of their wings all flying off at the same time. All in all, I think it was a pretty cool experience. Even though it felt touristy and you got a ticket like at Disneyland, it was still worth going to see the salt lick at Yasuni. There are only a handful of places in all of the Amazon where you can see the birds coming to consume the clay like this.
So another good time to do nature journaling is there's inevitably going to be a time on your trip when everyone else is sleeping in hammocks. So that's a good time to do some nature journaling, catch up, or nature journal anything in the surroundings.
Thanks to all my Patreon patrons for making this episode possible and for helping use nature journaling to save biodiversity in places like Yasuni. If you can't wait all the way until next week for the next episode of the show, check out one of these videos here. Bye.